Hey, let's talk about all the details about All About Reading Level 2. Hi, I am Rachel from 7 and All. I'm a second generation homeschool YouTuber who loves to make all the nerdy homeschool videos here on YouTube, and this will be definitely one of those nerdy videos as we talk about all the details of this reading curriculum, the All About Reading Level 2. My son is now just in the last couple of lessons, so we've been using this throughout our school year, and I wanted to come share some thoughts, answer some frequently asked questions, and just share about our real life experience of using this. I will have an affiliate link down in the description below if you're interested in heading to their website, learning more about the curriculum. And I'm going to try to answer questions as I go through this video and go through this review. But if you have any specific questions, feel free to ask them in the comments below and I will do my best to answer. Now, let's start out with the basics. This is All About Reading Level 2. That does not mean that it's aimed necessarily for grade 2 at all. So don't associate levels with particular grades. You are intended to place your child by their skill level, by where they are at into this program. So for my son, we did complete All About Reading Level 1 first and then just move straight into Level 2. But it is also possible that even if you didn't do Level 1 with your child, but you have a child who does have some foundation in reading, maybe they could just start in Level 2 if you decided to switch programs. Now, if you were looking at placing your child into Level 2, without doing Level 1, you would want to make sure that they are very comfortable reading short vowel words, including short vowel words beginning with multiple consonants and ending with multiple consonants. So words like crunch, they should be able to read, or swift, and they should also have some familiarity with decoding two-syllable short vowel words. So words like cobweb, for example. Both of those kind of words, as well as a handful of common sight words, but you would want to have all of that down very solid, and that can be a little bit tricky for some kids. Getting in on the beginning and end blends can be one of those tricky stages to get the words like crunch, for example. But you would want to have those words down solid before you start into this, because all of that is covered in Level 1. And then in Level 2, you start adding in new phonograms, new reading concepts. This is a curriculum that says it teaches all key reading skills, and you will see that throughout the teacher's guide. This is heavily a phonics curriculum, but it does not stick to just purely phonics. You're learning a little bit about how two words could be spelled the same, sound the same, but they could have different meanings, like bark. The bark of a dog or the bark of a tree, completely different meanings, and yet the word is the same. You're learning about concepts like that. You sometimes have activities that have to do with comprehension and analysis of the stories that you read. So it is heavily a phonics curriculum, but it does go beyond phonics into other reading skills as well. Now, on a basic level, what elements are included in this program? There are multiple elements. There is the teacher's guide, which you can see is pretty thick. You have fully scripted lessons that begin with kind of a yellow box that's explaining to the teacher what's going on, what are the concepts in this lesson. And then once you're in the lesson itself, the new teaching section, you're told exactly what to do and you're given a script of what to say. For me, when I'm teaching these lessons, I go ahead and I look at the lesson to begin with, and I don't necessarily read out of the book, but I might adapt it as I go. We might do all of the example words, we might not do all of the example words. I appreciate the script, but it doesn't have to be used word for word perfectly. You know, you can adapt it to your child, you can use examples that connect with them. So teacher's guide is core to it. Then you have the readers. And there are two readers for this level, hardbound, and if you're getting the current edition, they have color images inside. The stories in these are going to be longer and wordier than Level 1, as you can probably imagine. You have the student activity book, which for the most part, mine has kind of all been taken apart. And the way that I have taken it apart and preserved it so that I can use it with multiple children, is that the pages for each lesson I have put inside page protectors, and I put those page protectors in a 3-ring binder. Any cut up pieces, I have put all the small pieces just in the page protector, and put everything for a lesson typically into one page protector. Some lessons might need more pages. Then you have your cards. So we have the green ones are word cards, and there are word cards based on the phonics concepts that you're learning, as well as green word cards with a frog on them. Those are your leap words or your sight words. Then your yellow cards are your phonogram cards. So I don't have the official box from All About Reading. My husband just grabbed this one from the grocery store, and it turned out to fit them absolutely perfectly. So that was fortuitous. Then another key element of the program are the letter tiles. There is an app for those who are more digital among us. I do not qualify in that regard. I very much prefer the hands-on manipulatives. So we've got our letter tiles, which are reflecting, which might be individual letters, or they might be phonograms that your child is learning throughout. Ow or blue is for consonant sounds. Then in addition to those, you have the syllable marker tags. So you have different symbols marking different syllables, different syllable types that your child learns, such as the bossy R syllable, if it can focus on that, or closed syllables. We have an open door for open syllables. And you're recommended by the curriculum to use this with a whiteboard. I don't have a portable whiteboard or any kind of whiteboard. We just put them on our table. I just get out the tiles we're going to use for that day, put them on the table, and we manipulate them. We have used these a lot. We use these for our lessons in this curriculum, but I also use them beyond just our lessons. I use them for spelling practice. For my son, we really like the movable letter tiles. So that was a glance at each element. I do want to share a little bit about how we used these elements, what we used, what we didn't use. As far as the word cards, we really enjoy these. Any type of flashcard has been a very useful tool in my learning journey with my sons so far. So just getting out the stack of cards or the last couple lessons worth of cards. In the teacher's guide, there will be a lot of ideas on interactive ways to use these cards to give your children lots of review. And you can definitely use those ideas when your child needs a lot of review. For me, we just kept things simple. We had about 2 different activities. My son likes speed and he likes competition, or competition with himself or with me. So we would just have activities where maybe I mix up a few lessons worth of cards and I say, hey, we're gonna look for words that have a bossy R syllable in them. And if it has, you read it, and if it has a bossy R syllable, you slap the card, and we'll take turns. And so that gets him really excited. He's focusing on trying to see, will his card have a bossy R syllable on it? I would also sometimes just kind of have him compete with himself. I'd get out a stack of cards and I'd tell him, okay, if you can read this word smoothly the first time through, easily and smoothly first time through, we're gonna put that card in one stack. If it takes some time or you need to sound it out, that's fine, but we're gonna put it in another stack for review. And so he'd be really motivated to, as much as possible, try to get as many cards as he could into the smooth reading stack. So we did use these. We didn't have to do a ton of review with them. I just had a few simple games, a few simple activities that we could go back to build up fluency and speed on those words, and that was great. Then there's the activity book, and we love the interactive pages from the activity book. So this is an example where you are feeding fish to a whale. My sons always love feeding activities. They've sometimes created their own feeding activities inspired by feeding activities from their schoolwork. My son made one where it was a cat and you had to feed the cat fish with letters on it. He made it for his little brother. So this is feeding fish to a whale, and on the back of each fish there's a word they have to read. The part of the activity book that we did not use so much are the practice sheets. Now, All About Reading is very famous for its practice sheets. Sometimes they have lists of words or phrases, such as on this. And this sheet is intended to get the child ready for reading a new story in the storybook. And then sometimes they have kind of sentences that build, these sentences that build. So you start with a phrase and then you build up to a complete sentence. This is excellent practice. This is an excellent tool for learning how to read. For my son, I didn't really feel like he needed this extra practice, and I felt like it was a little boring to just be reading a bunch of sentences or phrases on a sheet of paper. So we hardly used those. We did use all the interactive things. This was a fun one. You have a nonfiction book about whale facts, and this was coordinated with a fiction story about whales that you were reading. So he gets to go through and read a little nonfiction book on whale facts and kind of see the different parts of a book. So this one ends with a glossary. I just pulled out a few favorite activities. We have these word flippers right here. So these are for silent E words. We learn all the different rules and uses of silent E in level 2. So you spend a good few lessons going over different uses of silent E. Here there were some cutouts for, I think, solving problems. So you have different cutouts here. Make them take a bath. 15 green sheep are on your deck. You're stuck on a long trip. So this one was one where you have problems, and then other cards are potential solutions. So you have to match a solution to the problem and try to make it make sense. So using some reasoning skills along with your reading. Another reading concept tackled was contractions. So these are little foldable contractions. So we're comes from we are. So you get a nice little visual on how the apostrophe and the abbreviation is used. You will comes from you will. I'll, I will. So all of these things, you can use them once. If your child needs more practice, you can use them again and again. You can come back to these. They're very easy to be reused. They're not something that you're just cutting out once and then that's all you use it. You can cut it out once, save it. You can reuse it with the same child or save it for future students if your child doesn't need more practice. Just trying to show you some of the very favorite activities we had. This was one my son really loved. You're building like a hamster cage with different tubes. On the back of each tube is a word that fits the type of word you're learning to read. So I think we were learning about soft G sound after an E, age here. Oh yeah, that makes sense with a cage. So you're building a gerbil cage with these tubes, and he could design the tubes in different ways to make a unique cage. This one was a favorite because I said he loves competition. You have all these clue cards with words on the back, and then you have 2 different pieces, and you take turns reading the clue cards, and the clue cards have a number, so you get to go 1 footprint for some words, or you get to go 2 footprints for some words, and you're trying to get to the end, and there's a bone at the end of the game. We played this multiple times, not because he needed to practice the words so much as he just wanted to play it multiple times. When it comes to the activity book, I do recommend don't try to be doing your cutting out once you're sitting down with your child to do the lesson. Make sure that you have cut out any pieces or got out any word cards or letter tiles that you need before you begin your school day. That's definitely a strategy I use to keep it from being overwhelming or time-consuming. In the middle of a lesson, I prep everything and make sure everything is ready to go before my school day. And as far as cutting out the pieces from the activity book, I typically did this just like 3 or 4 lessons at a time. Some people want to prep the whole activity book at once. That sounded like hours worth of work to me. So for me, I would prep 3 or 4 lessons, and that would last me a week or 2, depending on the lessons. And then once I ran out of lessons that were prepped, then I'd have another short prepping session again. And just cutting up the pieces, sliding them into page protectors. Now, as far as my review on the readers, these are excellent. All About Reading has a reputation for having very amusing and engaging readers, and they definitely deserve that reputation. My son enjoys these He wants me to read them to him sometimes so that he can just sit back and enjoy the story. But he has really done well with reading these. But he has really enjoyed these, and I have enjoyed these as well. I do tend to find most early readers rather boring, so I do appreciate the innovation and creativity and cleverness and humor that comes into quite a few of these stories. There's a lot of variety as far as tales. They're not just one theme or one setting. There's definitely variety in here. There's silliness, humor, and fun stuff going on. So they deserve their good reputation. Now, I've been asked whether you can expect to move through level 2 faster than you move through level 1 with your student. And I'm going to say that just is really going to vary depending on your student. For many, many children, yes, the beginning journey, the beginning footsteps into the path of reading goes a little bit slower. And then as your child progresses in fluency and confidence, they're able to pick up the concepts faster because everything just builds. So that was pretty much what we experienced. I would say the first half of level 2, we were moving through at about the same pace as we went through level 1. And then by the second half of level 2, the pace very quickly picked up and we were moving through lessons faster than we had before. So we moved through the second half of level 2 much more quickly because it was getting to a point where my son knew enough of the reading concepts, enough of the phonics concepts, that any new concept we added, it was just like, oh, okay, next. Moving through lessons much more quickly. And he was also he had more reading stamina, so as he's reading the stories, he was able to get through a story more quickly than he had before. But with different students and different children, that journey and the time is going to look different. So I wouldn't necessarily try to plan on getting through this many lessons in a certain amount of time. With teaching reading and teaching phonics, it's really about mastery, and your student is really going to determine the pace of mastery. So with some children, the journey to reading is just going to be a slow and steady journey. With other ones, there will be slower times and then faster times. They'll make certain leaps. So it's just going to depend on the child. But what you can do as a teacher is be very, very consistent in your reading instruction. Don't try to do a lot of reading instruction on one day and then forget about it for the rest of the week. Be consistent. That's one of the best things that you can do as a teacher, is to have some reading practice every single day. That's where you're going to really start to see progress, is through consistency, through consistent teaching. The next question is, do you need level 3? Do you need to do level 3 of All About Reading? Now, All About Reading is a very explicit program for teaching reading. Reading skills and phonograms, everything is taught explicitly. You're given multiple different opportunities for practice through the word cards, through the letter tiles, through the activity book, and the readers as well. You are taught skills explicitly and then given multiple ways to practice those skills. It's a very, very thorough reading curriculum. Do you need level 3 is going to be a question that the answer, once again, is determined by the needs of your student. What does your student need, and also the needs that you have as a teacher. So I will say, for me, with my student, with my son, I am not planning on using level 3 with him. We'll be finishing up level 2 pretty soon, and I feel pretty confident with just moving on to just having him read readers that are at his level, and for me to continue just teaching him. We do use other LA resources that bring in phonics rules, such as our spelling curriculum and Explode the Code and simple resources like that. So I pretty much made the executive decision that for this student and for me, I feel confident enough that he's going to be a very fluent reader with a good understanding of phonics and a good understanding of reading skills without having to do the level 3. Without having to put that much investment of money and time into a specific reading-focused curriculum. But that's a decision I made for this child and for me, because I am fairly confident with my own knowledge of phonics, with my own ability to teach reading skills. It's something I'm passionate about. So I liked having this structured curriculum for the beginning of the journey, but I don't necessarily feel like I need my hand held for continuing the journey into higher level reading, is how I feel as a teacher. And also, I feel like this student is very much showing signs of just taking off in reading, is very, very strong on comprehension and engaging with the stories that he reads. So for him, I don't feel like level 3 is necessary, but for other children who don't just take to reading as naturally, or other children who have more of a longer journey into reading, will probably benefit from level 3. Or if you as a teacher just feel like, I'd appreciate the structure and I know that the structure is going to help me, the script is going to help me, then I would suggest, yeah, get level 3. It's not going to be a waste if it's a tool that you know is going to help you and a tool that you know is going to help your kids. Don't feel like it's a waste of money. Tools are not a waste of money. For me, I did look at the level 3 scope and sequence of the phonograms introduced, which is in the back of this book. You can go ahead and see which phonograms are introduced in which levels. I looked at those and I realized my son's actually been introduced to almost all of those phonograms already, just from old sets of phonetic flashcards that we've used or that my mom has used with him. He actually knows almost all of those already. So that was one of the reasons that I'm feeling with where he's at. I don't think going into level 3 will be the best fit or a real need for us. I'm feeling comfortable with taking him just into some of the early readers, and you will see what my plan is for our first grade reading plans, and I'll get to show you some of those books. And I'm comfortable with that, but I'm not saying that level 3 is not a need for anybody. I definitely think it can be a worthwhile investment for you, depending on if you feel like you need that tool. But for us, I feel like level 1 and level 2 have given us a really solid foundation. They've given us exactly what I wanted out of a phonics and reading curriculum. And now we can just fly off into the happy journey of reading real books, reading Little Bear, and reading all these beginner books, Frog and Toad, and those fun books. So I hope that this was a helpful review, and if you have any questions, as I mentioned, just leave them down in the comments below. I am always happy to answer. I do have an affiliate link, and I very much appreciate it when you use my affiliate links. So if you're interested in learning more about level 2, head to the description, click on that link, head to their website, and I will be seeing you next time for more nerdy homeschool videos. Bye!